Hello there, and welcome to the Joys of Mapping. This is gonna be a touch experimental, but it's raining and I've been watching too much Bob Ross. For today, right here, we're gonna be using WonderDraft, wonderful software for your mapping purposes, but you can use just about anything you like. But what is important is we are going to be using a black and white theme. We're gonna do quite a bit right here. So first we're gonna make our little template. Today I'm thinking we're gonna do an island. It's gonna be a little dead at the top and then alive at the bottom. Let me show you. So I'm personally gonna use one of these generators, but you can design your own island however you darn like. You know, I think that right there, that looks quite nice. But we're gonna erase that little spot up there. And we're gonna kind of patch it in a little. Ah, isn't that beautiful? Now, I do things a little differently than you might be used to. So right now, we are going to export this. And we're gonna label it as layer 1. Trust me, this is gonna matter. Alright, next we're gonna need to set up a few symbols. Now, what's fun about WonderDraft is it comes with its own assortment of things and whatnot, so it's real easy to set up. I'm thinking we're gonna put a little port right here, and we're gonna put a little village right here. Ooh, what's this? Let's make this the orcish spot, so we're gonna put a little orcish spot right there. Let's add some dead trees. It's real important you add the dead trees. Bob Ross always went on about the happy trees, and I can respect the happy trees, but you don't want the happy trees for D&D. You want the angry trees, the trees with monsters inside. Ooh, yes, these are my dead trees. Now we're gonna add a little farmland over here. This fellow, I always found the farmland a touch difficult to place. No, that just don't look quite right. How about we give them some more buildings right there? Ooh, yes. That's gonna be a nice little city right there. You know, there may be no mistakes, only happy accidents, but if you make one, Control Z on most softwares will be your quick undo button. Ooh, do we want this? No, I don't think so. Alright, let's add a little castle to our village if we're gonna have one of these. Isn't that just right? Let's do some mountains first. Right here, we're gonna do a few mountains. You know, these mountains, they're gonna act as the barrier between the safe realms and the dangerous ones. Now remember, keep whatever you're able to black and white. We're gonna be messing with it a little later. So isn't that just right? Alright, let's add a little forest. Now, personally, I don't like the default placement density, but you get these little spray brushes on the newer tools, right? So you do something like this. Ooh. Don't those look nice? Lovely. We can even put a few among the dead trees. Alright, now doesn't that just look quite right? Okay, now this next part's gonna confuse you just a touch, alright? But now today we're just gonna make a fun little reference map. We're not gonna worry too hard about something for active play. That's a very different experience. So this next part might confuse you a little. Don't worry, it's perfectly normal. We're gonna do this. Oh, yes. You probably screaming right now. Trust me, this is gonna be fantastic. We're gonna export that. Yes. Get the little label that layer 2. Trust me, this is gonna look fantastic. Look, we can undo it so we have the original for reference. Alright, let me show you what's going on. Alright, now y'all are gonna find this next part fantastic. Right here, we are gonna be using Photoshop. Your Photoshop software is probably just fine, but I love this one because you can use it free with ads, and it's not even immune to the ad blocker. So let me show you this fantastic software and what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna hit open from computer, and you're gonna pull out that layer 1 you put together earlier. Now trust me, this is gonna be the greatest thing you ever seen, alright? We're gonna go up and we're gonna search perspective. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a perspective warp. I know, it's a little weird. We're gonna need to touch it up a bit later. This is a fantastic thing. Now what we're gonna do next is we're gonna open and place our other layer. So you'll notice this is that layer we were working on just a minute ago. Alright, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna wanna grab whatever your magic selector thingy is, and you're gonna select everything. And then we're gonna hit erase. We're gonna remove this entire mess of the background. That's why we had it at black and white earlier, so we could remove the background. Oh boy, don't that look pretty? Now you're probably still a little confused by some of my choices, but let me show you this. This is something amazing. We're gonna remove the mountains for now. We'll come back and add the mountains a little later, alright? It's just they have a few problems whenever you're using them like this. Oop, yes, there we go. Those mountains will be right back. Just give me some time. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to layer and layer style, and this will make your concept maps. That'll look amazing, right? So right here, you click on drop shadow. Now, you're not going to want them angled dumb, so we're going to want them angled something like this. And look at that, between the perspective warp and the drop shadow, we really made those trees pop out of it. But there's a little more to it because we can also change the colors of different things. So right here, we're going to duplicate the layer. This is something real nice we can do. So what we're going to do is in this duplicated layer, we're going to remove those little buildings. It takes just a minute, but it's real necessary for this next bit. Now we want to put that layer on top. And then we're going to go to the bottom layer, and on this one, we're going to remove the trees right there. And what we've done with this is we've made a few distinct layers to organize everything by. Now this is just going to take a minute, but now what we're going to do is right here on the tree level, we're going to go to filter and camera raw. Alright, we're going to screw with this till we get the right kind of pretty tree. And there we go. And we're going to increase the saturation and the vibrance and the contrast. It's going to look just nice. And we're going to hit OK. Oh, what a silly mistake of mine. We did that to the buildings layer. Alright, so you're going to want to undo that and try again. Like I said, Control Z, magic button in most softwares. Let's see. Can we get you a little orangish? Alright, now we got a nice little orangish color over all those pretty trees. And then right here, we got our buildings, and we can screw with them a little too. So we're gonna go to camera raw, and we're gonna make them we're gonna make a bit more pronounced, just crank up those settings. Not exposure all the way, but just a bit. Those buildings there, they're just a touch small, aren't they? Let's make them a bit bigger. You're supposed to be exploring the map. We want them to pop out, let's put the buildings on top of the tree layer. Let's move you right on up. Right there. Those buildings. Ooh, that's just silly of me. If you hit the lock button right there, your background can be frozen in place if you want it. Alright, now let's get these buildings nice and big. I use Photoshop a lot, yet somehow I always screw up. Make that sucker pop. We're gonna erase a little of those edges that aren't quite pretty. Oh, yes, isn't that quite right? And now we got our lovely little buildings kind of put together. Now that's a nice little concept map, but aren't we forgetting something special? Let's get those mountains back in here. Let's move them on top, and we're going to want to erase everything else. We're going to just erase all around it. Isn't that nice? I just realized I'm darn silly. We're going to want to do something like this before, and then we're going to want to just erase all this, right? Select, deselect. Alright, now we're fixing it all up. This is nice and pretty. Let's see, go all the way through right here. Alright, now let's move this layer all the way to the top. Oh, see that? We missed a few things because we weren't on the top at the start. Alright, there we go. We have the mountain set aside, but what we're going to do is we're going to put a layer, and we're going to put it right there. It's all layers, my friend. It's always layers. We're going to make this a little bigger. We're going to turn the hardness down just a touch. We're going to get a nice little brown. No, we're going to get a nice little stone color for our mountain. And check this out. Don't worry, we all got control. And then we're going to just run it through. And you can kind of see that looks quite nice. Now you'll notice not all of it's controlled, but don't worry, those are going to be our highlights in a second. This is going to be quite pretty. Just give me one moment. Alright, now here's what we're going to do next. We're going to take this layer and we're going to duplicate it. There we go. And we're going to move it right below those. Now we got to turn that down. And look at that rocky stone appearance. Hello there. I was in the middle of editing and I realized I didn't explain something quite as well as I could have, so I wanted to kind of show you it more directly. So what we had going on was we had something like this with the mountain where you had it transparent during part of it and white during part of it. So what I did was I kind of colored beneath the mountain this pattern, but I did the layer beneath the mountain. If you look at those layers on the side, you can see what I'm doing. And then what I did was I copied the mountain layer and I put it on both sides. So what I did was I took the top layer and then I took that little opacity mirror and I kind of pulled it down. And what happened was by pulling down the opacity, I got different shades of the color within the mountains. And it's a little, it was explained very well in the video, and I just kind of wanted to apologize for that. You can also kind of cut around, do stuff like that, right? So you get something like that. And also these like big bulging lines weren't there in the other one, so we might cut those out, and that works a lot better once you remove those little lines and you get that kind of just plain change in tone going on between the two spots. Alright, let's go right here. Let's fix our opacity, and we're gonna just cover that up. Oh yeah, would you look at that? Real pretty mountains, real pretty, real easy. Alright, and we're gonna kind of cut that little bit right there, except we're not sure what layer it's on. Give me just a moment. There we go. And then we're gonna take the 3 of these layers, and we are going to merge them. Now they're all one layer, and then we're gonna go right over here to the layer, and we're gonna go and we're gonna add another drop shadow. Oh yeah, I do love me a pretty drop shadow. But it kind of contradicts that a little bit. You know, I'm not really feeling those orcish towers at this point, but don't worry, we have complete control of the entire process all the way through. Now, isn't that just a touch nice? Now, you might say, I don't really like how the drop shadow is turning out, because I am being a little bugged, but this is the software where perfectionists go for fun. There we go. Isn't that just pretty? Now we got the light coming in from the same direction as everything else. But now you're probably thinking, well, what about the land? The land's a little blank, isn't it? And you know you're right there. Which is why we're going to get a nice select, and we're gonna clear out all that land. But first we need to unlock that layer. Ooh, do you hear that rain? If you don't, I'll probably put some in when I'm editing this. Oh yeah, let's just get that rain going. Love that rain. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna deselect right there, and then we're gonna add a new layer, and this layer will be what the ground of this land looks like. So we need to be really careful about this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get us a nice little dark brown, and then we're gonna put that right up next to, let's say, kind of darker greenish. And then we're gonna go right over to filter, and we are gonna render some clouds. Oh, that's a bit swampy, isn't it? But don't worry, we're not quite done yet. And we're gonna go right on top of that, and we're gonna get a little brighter version of each of those colors. Render ourselves some more clouds. Ooh, that's just a touch prettier, but check this out. Now we can kind of turn the opacity down, and it looks kind of like some natural land. Now there's quite a bit of touching up we need to do. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get a little eraser tool, and we're gonna turn down the brush size, and we're gonna turn it way less hard, and we're gonna fix up some of the smaller details that might have been bothering you. So right here we have our mountains. We're gonna kind of mix those into the ground. Ooh, yes. Make them just kind of disappear. You know, you want them to become part of the landscape. Yes, the joys of mapping. Right, so this is our world. We can really advance it all we want. You know, if you're a particularly fancy fellow, you consider labeling these. So double click it, and we can name this the towns layer. And then we can go right here, and we can name this the trees layer. And then we can go right here, and we can name this the mountains layer. So now it's a bit easier to sort through and find whatever we're looking for. Right here we're on the towns, and we're gonna need to kind of cut that little bit right there. That doesn't look right. And right here we have all sorts of little bits and bobs that don't quite look nice. So we're gonna want to shrink our little doodad right down and start going through just a little bit at a time. Oh yeah, see that? We're gonna remove some of those uglier bits and pieces. Now this little concept map's looking amazing. Now remember, this is real small on the scale of the map, so you know, you don't need it to be perfect. You just need to kind of remove some of the bad bits. I think that little bit's caught from the tree layer. Yep, you see that there? You know, it gets real tricky with the layers sometimes. Little bits merging in and out and whatnot. Oh yes, right like that. Oh, you see that? Gotta really take out those edges whenever you can. And you know, my first map I did in the Incarnate software, and I didn't know how Photoshop worked. Incarnate's got decent free tier for those of you interested in it. Oh wow, there was an entire portion I got wrong. Incarnate's got pretty good free tier if you're into that, but I'd really recommend Wonderfilled. It's fantastic for the new fellow. It's a fantastic software, but you know, if you like your maps, you know, some time on Photoshop, that's where you get the full flexibility. You can do whatever you want once it's convert to Photoshop. I forgot what the channel is called, but I used to watch a channel that did most of their mapping in Photoshop, but they had Wondershare just to go in and place the little mountains. Do love those mountains. Those are the barriers to other worlds. You know, you gotta be real careful about those mountains. Let's see, these are probably bits from the trees. Remember, it's a lot easier to just remove something than to fix it. Like right here, this tree don't quite look right because I kind of meshed them in the earlier process. We can just increase the size and remove that tree altogether, and that's a lot better. Yes, aren't these just pretty? Oop, just a little too far, just a little too far. We're just gonna kind of mesh these out. Oh yeah, gotta get rid of all these little bits that don't quite look right, don't we? Yes. Now if we zoom out just a bit, now doesn't that just look a lot nicer? Right over there, it looks like there was an error that was made. I believe that's on the background layer. Ooh. Now if we want, we can just kind of remove this entirely, but I don't think that's quite right. We're just gonna kind of cut that out. Now you will notice we do still have a lot of ocean to work on, and we're gonna need to go back and fix that, but right now we're just touching up all those little failed details. Now what layer is this sucker on? It was on the trees. They're the trees that didn't quite get fixed right. Alright, so right there that's some more trees. Right there that's on the background layer. You know, it's all about fixing up the little details. See right here, that's just a blatant failure. You know, once you get a touch tired of trying to fix something, it's way easier just to erase it, you know? Not every piece of the world's gonna need to be sustained for your entire thing. Now, isn't that just a bit pretty? You know, you got that wonderful concept map together. But what about this water? This is some real ugly looking water. Well, we can once again go to your background layer and we can just walk in and we can fix it all up. And then we're gonna merge this down and then we're gonna fix up this entire section right here. Now you got that nice wonderful storybook kind of map. What are we gonna do for the background? And I do think we should just stick with what we know, and we're gonna make it look pretty, something like that, I think. So we're gonna go to render and we're gonna do some more clouds. Now that's just a pretty background map, but you'll notice that everything seems a little dark right here. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right here and we're gonna change the raw camera and we're gonna increase the saturation just a little bit. Yes, that looks pretty. That looks all pretty. And you know what? We need a little sailboat. So we're going to walk right over to Bing. I'm going to cut whatever you see right here. And we're going to search for a little sailboat clip art. Remember, if you're selling something, you need to be a little more concerned about what assets you use. But we're just fine right here because we're making a fun concept map for our personal campaign. Ooh, now isn't that just a touch pretty right there? Let's see if we can get it to load. I do love me a pretty piece of clip art. We're just going to drag and drop this into Photoshop. Now, it's going to make two versions of this. It's kind of weird. I don't know why. So we're going to remove one of those versions and we're going to move it right over here. And we're going to kind of shrink him down a little. And we're going to grab our good old magic select and we're gonna just clear out all that little inside. Select, deselect. Now doesn't that look nice? And we're gonna give it another drop shadow because that just makes everything blend in nice and pretty. And we're gonna put something like right here and we're gonna walk over to the filter and we're gonna blur it just a little bit to make some of those little rougher bits disappear. So now we got a little ship in the port. Yeah, you know what? I quite like that. We got a little ship in the port and we got everything kind of popping out at you. Now isn't that just a pretty map? At this point, you might be interested in labeling different aspects, but since this is just my concept map, we're going to ignore that for now. I do think a little Kraken's in order. Maybe we can get tentacle clip art. Let's see. Tentacle. This is going to look nice, trust me. Let's see. It just takes a second. I think these look real pretty. So just give me a moment. It's going to take a moment to load it. Alright, and then we're going to stick one of these suckers in there. Ooh, yes. That's pretty. And we're going to want rotate that to something like that. And we're going to want to erase some bits. So we're going to remove that little wall bit. And then we're going to remove that bit of the tentacle right there. And then we're going to run that magic wand all the way through. Look at that. Select, deselect. Isn't that pretty? Now we're going to do a nice little drop shadow layer. Layer style, drop shadow. It will always look wonderful to add a drop shadow. You know, I think this drop shadow would look just a little better if the tentacle mixed with the world a little better. So we're going to try and make it disappear. Now that's just a little nicer, I think. But more than that, we're going to need to let's kind of get rid of some of those edges right there. So right here, we kind of got a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to shrink it down and we got our hardness real low right there. And we're just kind of disappear this into it. Alright, so now it really looks like it's popping out of the water. And you can just keep adding and adding, but I think that's a comfortable place to call it done. Hello, it's me from the just a little bit farther in the future, I was editing this video, I forgot to show y'all one more trick. So what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to go over here to the side. You see that? That is the gradient tool. And you want to set these two things to black and white, and then you do something like this. Maybe you want a little darker towards the center, so we can do something like this. We can make the transition real quick, blah, 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 right? So we do something like this, and right over here we go and we set the opacity down. And then, now it's a bit lighter on this side and it gets darker going out, reflecting this light I was showing y'all at the beginning. Thank you. We're just gonna call that map right there, but isn't that a pretty little map? All of it blends in and it just pops out at you really nice.